And greetings. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast alongside Aaron McIntyre and Todd Erz. And I'm Steve Deace. We're brought to you by our friends over at Preborn. You know, there are few investments that last forever, but investing in the cause of life does. And tens of thousands of you have done this to help save tens of thousands of babies each and every year of this partnership that we have had between Preborn and the Blaze. Let's keep that generosity going. I know we're entering into the end of year giving phase for a lot of you, and particularly the holiday, time of year. And what is a worthy cause? There is no more worthy cause than Preborn's networks of clinics around the country that are literally on the streets doing soul-to-soul combat on behalf of babies and their mamas so that they don't fall into the darkness, into the abyss, into state-sanctioned child sacrifice, and everything they do, both to encourage the mom and then equip her to become a mom after she chooses the light. All they do is for free, but none of it, of course, is free. That's where you and I come in with our generosity. We can keep that going. Make a tax-deductible donation today to the 5-star rated charity called Preborn by dialing pound 250 and saying keyword baby on your mobile phone, or you can go to preborn.com/Steve. Again, that's preborn.com/Steve. Also want to let you know about a couple of quick housekeeping items here at The Blaze. First of all, the new edition of Frontier Magazine is out now. You can get that with the new subscription tier of Blaze Unlimited, which is really more than a subscription. You now become a full-fledged partner with us here at The Blaze with more VIP treatment, members-only content than ever before, including Frontier Magazine. And the first 50 subscribers who use the code Frontier40 will get $40 off and receive Frontier Magazine's back issues as well. In case you are a new subscriber and you weren't here for the first 3, you'll get those too. At blazeunlimited.com/Deace if you use the promo code Frontier40. At blazeunlimited.com/Deace, code Frontier40. And then finally, we want to announce a new show that we are very excited about. All three of us here on this show are admirers of Christopher Rufo. He is maybe the most effective political activist on our side that we have alive today. He's teaming up with Jonathan Lomez Keeperman, who's an English professor turned renegade culture writer and publisher. They're going to dive deep into culture issues and the things that are shaping our world right now with a new show launching here on Blaze TV that you can catch directly as well at youtube.com/Rufo and Lomez. youtube.com/Rufo and Lomez. It premieres this Friday. The entire network is very excited about that. This entire show is very excited about bringing Chris Rufo on board too. All right, so you want to go again to youtube.com/Rufo and Lomez. All right, coming up on today's show, we'll be joined by the weekly prophet of woe and lamentation, Daniel Horowitz, in the final segment of the program. We'll get to some buy, sell, or hold later in the show as well. But let's begin, as we always do, with Aaron's rundown of what happened while we were away.
What happened while we were away, brought to you by a clean sweep. Democrat candidates won handily in yesterday's highly publicized off-year elections in New York City. Islamist Zohran Mamdani easily won his election for mayor of the nation's largest city. A late apology for his handling of COVID was not enough for former New York governor turned mayoral candidate Andrew Cuomo, who lost by 9 points.
We will prove that there is no problem too large for government to solve and no concern too small for it to care about.
In New Jersey, Democrat mikie Sherrill beat Republican Jack Ciattarelli 56 to 43%. In Virginia, Abigail Spanberger, the Democrat, beat Republican Winsome Sears 57 to 43%. Sticking in Virginia with the Attorney General race, political murder fantasist and Democrat Jay Jones beat Republican Jason Miyares 53 to 47%. Not a major surprise. Democrats swept last night in these races, but their margins are what seem to be alarming. According to an NBC News exit poll, young women voted at an 81% clip for Mamdani in New York City, an 80% clip for Sherrill in New Jersey, and a 78% clip for Spanberger in Virginia. Democrats won young men in Virginia by 14, in New Jersey by 10, and in the New York City election for mayor by 40 points. Candace Owens, your thoughts? Not voting until we learning the truth about who killed Charlie. Literally do not care how anybody feels about that. Not lifting one finger. This morning, President Trump gathered Republican senators at the White House and implored them.
It's time for Republicans to do what they have to do, and that's terminate the filibuster. It's the only way you can do it. And if you don't terminate the filibuster, you'll be in bad shape. We won't pass any legislation. There'll be no legislation passed for 3.25. We have 3.25 years, so that's a long time. They're going to pack the court. They're going to make D.C. a state, and they're going to make Puerto Rico a state. So now they pick up 2 states. They pick up 4 senators, okay? You think you have problems? They're going to do all of the things. They're going to pick up electoral votes.
So what does Trump want after nuking the filibuster?
We should open up. We should start tonight with the country's open. Congratulations. Then we should pass voter ID. We should pass no mail-in voting. We should pass all the things that we want to pass, make our elections secure and safe, because California is a disaster. Many of the states are disasters.
Don't believe President Trump on the filibuster. Here's former Attorney General Eric Holder just this week on what Democrats will do once they have a trifecta.
The reality is, and it pains me to say this, I think the Supreme Court is a broken institution. And it's something that has to be, I think, a part of the national conversation in 26 and in 28. What are we going to do about the Supreme Court? And I think that we have to think about, again, talking about the acquisition and the use of power. If there is a Democratic trifecta in 2028, and I think the possibility of that is pretty good, Supreme Court reform is something that has to be considered. Term limits, I think, at a minimum, potentially expanding the court is something I think that also should be considered.
In other news, and according to an investigation from Blaze News on the topic of January 6th, in the span of less than 10 minutes, after a huge crowd of protesters filled the U.S. Capitol West Plaza beneath the inauguration stage on January 6th, Capitol Police repeatedly used lethal force on the crowd, targeting people in the head, neck, face, and upper body. Actions one use of force expert called criminally negligent. The targeting of the crowd and one graphic bloody injury to a protester's face enraged the crowd and appeared to lead to a large escalation of violence toward police, including one throwing water bottles and flagpoles and the use of pepper spray and bear repellent. Stan Kephart, an expert witness on police use of force who reviewed the January 6th surveillance video, said firing crowd control weapons from an elevated platform into a dense crowd and striking targets above the shoulders is both criminally negligent and a potentially lethal act. You can read that full story over at Blaze News. And finally, some self-awareness out of Hollywood. Here's J-Law.
You have been politically outspoken in the past. Mm-hmm. In the first Trump administration, you had a lot to say. How you feel about talking out now?
I don't really know if I should. As we've learned, election after election, celebrities do not make a difference whatsoever on who people vote for. And so then what am I doing? I'm just sharing my opinion on something that's going to just add fuel to a fire that's ripping the country apart. I mean, we are so divided. I think I'm in a complicated recalibration because I'm also an artist, and with this temperature and the way that things can turn out, I don't want to start turning people off to films and to art.
And that's what happened while we were away.
Aaron's Montage, brought to you by our friends over at Miracle Made. Here's a gross fact. Traditional bed sheets can hold more bacteria than a toilet seat. Not exactly where you want to be laying your face at night, but that's where Miracle Made comes in. Their sheets are crafted with NASA-inspired silver-infused fabric that helps regulate your body temperature. That's what turned me on to them first and foremost. That's why the only sheets that have been on our bed now for going on, 3 years. And this time of year with the change of seasons comes in very handy as well. But that that silver technology is also antibacterial. So their sheets stay cleaner and fresher up to 3 times longer than the stuff you just get in the stores. And they feel great. They're comfortable as well. I cannot recommend them highly enough. So upgrade your sleep. Give the gift of better rest by going to trymiracle.com/Deace. You'll save over 40% when you use the promo code Deace. You'll get an extra 20% off and a free 3-piece towel seat as well when you use that code. Again, that's trymiracle.com/Deace to save over 40%. And with the promo code Deace, you get an extra 20% off. Trymiracle.com/Deace, code Deace at checkout. Love these sheets. Did not love the results last night. Now, let me say this before we begin. but none of it was a surprise, by the way. But let me say this before we begin analysis, that these are blue states. So I do think we have to acknowledge that going in, okay? It's a little bit like, when you watch your rival in a, whatever your favorite sport is, the primary rival, you watch them play another team that there's a game they're supposed to win, right? Okay. And you shouldn't necessarily overreact based on just that. But that doesn't mean that there aren't things and trend lines there within that you can recognize and you think have to be addressed, so that when it comes time now to see if you can beat that rival team, that if you ignore those trend lines, the odds of you doing so, they greatly go down. Let me just give you one little factoid from my buddy Brent Buchanan over at Signal Polling, who was on our show earlier this year. He was one of Trump's pollsters in the 2024 campaign. He sent me this nugget. Loudoun County, Virginia, third largest county in the state. About 500,000 people live there. Winsome Sears got 63% of the Trump vote there. And Spanberger got 82% of the Kamala vote there. That is incredible. And that's the kind of trend line where you're like, you can't just dismiss the whole thing and say, well, it was, these are blue states. There's some devils in the details here that I think have to be addressed. And so there's three in particular that I think we have to address. All right, number one, let's talk about Virginia. Because in Virginia, suburban voters reign supreme in Virginia. And the GOP used to be the suburban party. Most of Todd and I's lives, it was the suburban party. And if you had a college degree, lived in the suburbs, you were way more likely to vote Republican than Democrat. That's completely flipped on its lid now. In the Trump era, in his three presidential runs, here's how we've performed with suburban voters nationwide: +2 in 2016, -10 in 2020. I don't know how legit that is. Pretty sure we lost them, but I doubt it was -10. So no, we don't know. And then -4 in 2024. The GOP has become more of a working class rural party. Republicans won Virginia. When Republicans were the suburban party, Republicans won Virginia in 10 straight presidential elections from 1968 until 2004. 10 straight. Now, they have not won the state since in a presidential election. There's three reasons for this. One is unique to Virginia. The massive growth of government, where we, started with guns and butter under George W. Bush and then went full on, we're all socialists now under Obama, and we just really haven't stop that kind of profligate government growth or spending, no matter who's been president since. The amount of government workers that now have been added to the rolls, to the doles, who have homes in Northern Virginia, has helped to reshape the demographics of that state quite a bit. So that's unique to Virginia. But there are two other problems in the suburbs of Virginia that are not unique to that state, that are a chronic problem that has metastasized all over the country, that helps to explain some of the struggles we've had with suburban voters in the MAGA Trump era. And number one, that's where a lot of your soft-headed mega churches are. They're in the suburbs, not doing really any discipleship of any meaningful, significant measure whatsoever. So the lack of discipleship as a bulwark up against the spirit of the age has diminished itself, abrogated within these very areas and regions of the country. And then you combine that too with just all-out Marxism as indoctrination in our universities and colleges today. Todd and I would have represented the last era of these debates could happen on college campuses. The current era is you don't dare debate because you'll just get flunked out and then you're spending money for nothing. So you just have to agree to be inculcated. You just go there unless you have a technical skill set that requires certification. The reality is you're just going there to become a gay race communist and play, Russian roulette with your soul. That's why you're there. And that's where a lot of the people that went and lost when they got to the table, put on the red bandana, pulled the trigger, and the bullet read Satan on it, and they lost, and it hit the brain. That's where a lot of them live now, is in the suburbs. So on one hand, on our side, soft-headed mega churches, dumbed down discipleship, or just didn't do it at all. And then on top of that now, the more you're in college, the more degrees you have, way more likely you are to vote Democratic. There's two things right away that will tell me how you vote in an election almost every single time. Are you married? And how many college degrees do you have? Those are the lines of demarcation in our currently in the voting trends in America. So how do we counter this? Well, we've got to have a strong economic message and record, because those people also like low taxes and things of that nature. That's one of the reasons why they live there. So you've got to have a strong economic message and record to counter that, so you can kind of ask them to put their pocketbooks ahead of their soullessness and godlessness, which I guess is another way of saying godlessness. All right. We don't have a strong economic record and message right now. We just do not. And I love the president, but going out there today and talking about, hey, the stock market's going to have record increases. Guys, we mock Democrats during economic downturns.
Treasury Secretary Bessent needs to be careful about this too.
Yeah.
He's starting to messaging that I don't think actually exists on the ground.
Yeah. And I can, to some degree, I understand why they're doing it, because if you can get the investor, if you can, so much of it's the old Yogi Berra line, half of this game is 90% mental. Okay. If you can get the investor class to invest and put money into the economy, there is an element of that does siphon down into the rest of the micro economy. So I understand it, but to that degree, but you just can't sit there. See, that's where you get a double whammy. A little bit like we're going to run on repealing Obamacare, then we're not going to repeal it, and then we're only going to repeal some of the mandates so that the costs go out of control. And so now we own Obama's failure. Similarly, we're not going to be the party of suburbanites anymore, which I'm fine with, knowing who most suburbanites frankly are nowadays. I'm fine with it, right? But we're not going to be that. We're going to be the party of the working man, but our economic messaging is going to be the stock market's going to do great. You see what I'm saying? There's a disconnect there. That doesn't work. And it's rare, I've said this where the president is concerned, but that economic messaging is from an era before he came to power. That's frankly very Bushian economic messaging, if we're being honest. So without a strong economic record or message to run on in the suburbs, we're going to lose. And we're just arguing the margins. That brings me to point 2. I think we have to fully now understand what the Democratic Party has become. And it's now completely made over in the image of its elitist ideals. So the electrical worker neighbor of yours is not a Democrat anymore. Either he refuses to see, the guy from the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers either refuses to see that party, the party hates his guts, and he just refuses to see it, or he's already a Republican. You see what I'm saying? I mean, it's not that party anymore. It is a Marxist, demonic, Islamist, but I repeat myself, party. That's what its ideals are. The stuff that we've seen the last few years on social media and for many years on cable news, and we kind of mocked, now we meme. These are legit creeds now. This is how it will govern now. And I think you need to understand what Mamdani represents. It's the next stage of a devolution. Obama still felt like he had to couch this stuff most of the time in languages, phrases, and euphemisms. There's none of that from Mamdani. I mean, you just heard him say right in that clip Aaron played. You're going to learn there's nothing government can't do for you. No problem government can't solve. Went up there last night and literally thanked people from every place in New York City for voting for him, except actual Americans. Right? So there's no decoder rings. There's no euphemisms anymore. There's no spoonful of euphemisms to help the poison go down. This stuff's 100 proof, no chaser. The Democratic Party ideologically is like when Ozzy Osbourne and Motley Crue jumped on a flight and went to the Perestroika concert in like the summer of '88. And they had just, between the two of them, done so many drugs and drank so much booze They couldn't get stoned or drunk anymore. So they were literally intravenously injecting on the plane ride over there. They were intravenously injecting Jack Daniels into their veins. Serious. They did that. That's what the Democratic Party is now. There's no more euphemisms, no need to translate. This stuff, this come in whole hog. And by endorsing and embracing Mamdani to the extent they did, he is the archetype of what they will have now moving forward. All of their messaging will be like this moving forward. Gavin Newsom, when he first tried running for president earlier this year, put Charlie on his podcast, tried admitting we shouldn't have men and women's sports, right? That lasted for about 10 minutes, right? Okay. Then he got completely obliterated, came back, and now he is going to embody these talking points himself. So here's what this means, and we have to understand now. These are, as I've said for years, this is a worldview steel cage match. These aren't campaigns so much anymore now. They're not rival political campaigns. They're rival mission expeditions. Missionary expeditions is really what they are. I mean, it's a little bit like if Islam sent its missionaries to follow Billy Graham all over the world to counter him, or vice versa. That's kind of what this is now.
Except we don't have a Billy Graham.
Except well, I'm going to get to that in a minute. Okay. Third point. Because elections are now worldview steel cage matches, here's the thing. We cannot significantly win outside of our native bases of strength without an ability to boldly and clearly articulate the worldview differences between the two sides. I heard nothing from Winsome Sears for a year in this race that mattered to me until that clip with Spanberger in that debate. Oh, she spoke boldly on some issues, but again, that didn't speak to our coalition. Our coalition now is MAGA and MAHA. That's our base now. That is our base. That's why I led with those numbers out of Loudoun County. She got 20 points less Trump voters than Spanberger got Kamala voters in the third largest county in that state. That's not sustainable. Does anybody have I don't know. Maybe she's talked about it, but I do this for a living. I couldn't tell you. Winsome Sears got the lowest total of vote for governor a Republican has gotten in Virginia since 1965. And that year, the Republican Party was splintered because a third party, conservative independent, ran. So I have no idea what Winsome Sears thinks about what RFK Jr. is doing. I don't have a clue. Maybe she's got thoughts. I don't know. But that's our base now. All right? Our base now, it's not, okay, First, I go talk to Grover Norquist and get the low tax crowd, and then I go talk to the religious right people and get the evangelicals. That process is over now. Now, those peoples that I just mentioned are in these coalitions I just talked about, okay? But you have to message to our base, and our base now is the MAGA-MAHA coalition. You have to get them to turn out for you, which means you've got to speak to issues in an existential way, not just technocratic, because no one cares about the Republican Party brand. It's a dead letter to most people. In fact, without these kind of candidates, I think we could even lose statewide in places where we have native strength. We already have Dem governors in Kentucky and Kansas, for example. I would not be surprised at all if we had a Dem governor right here in Iowa next year. It's one of the reasons why I made the endorsement that I did. Because the member of Congress that you guys are all talking about in the system, we know him and know that he, to quote the Joker, I know the squealers. No way. Randy Feenstra won't even face a friendly audience of Christians, let alone stand up. Randy Feenstra would be like, listen, not only should Mitt Romney have never ate that chicken sandwich, in fact, he should have sued Chick-fil-A himself. That's what he's going to do. He's an absolute squealer. Absolute squealer. Those guys are going to lose. Rob Sands out there here in Iowa, quoting the Bible, talking about his faith. Randy's going to be like, well, I just think we need jobs in the economy. Dead. Dead tomorrow. Dead tomorrow. Dead now, frankly. That brings us to the swing voters in this third point. We got to come up with some bolder and more effective economic messages and interventions besides, guys, we're going to manage Obamacare and deficit spending better. Because that kind of does seem to be the current economic message of our party. Am I missing something? That kind of seems it. For example, even our economic messaging now must convene a different and better way of life than better widgets and more payouts. Even our economic messaging has to speak to the soul. Let me say that again. Even our economic messaging has to speak to the soul. Because again, these are not mere political campaigns now. They're rival, evangelistic, missionary expeditions. Whole different ways of life, whole different views on God, the human person, the purpose of life, why we exist as a nation, how we even define what a nation is. Wholly different now.
And quite frankly, even though we're behind the eight ball to start that, that's how it's supposed to be all along, Steve. This whole game was always supposed to be about worldview and not spreadsheets. That's what makes life worth living. That's what God commands us to do.
And that's what they are offering. I think it's a demonic counterfeit, but that's what they're offering over there. Yes. And then I'm going to make this is a bonus point for you. You didn't ask for this one. I'm going to throw this one in for you. Okay. The more we pussyfoot with mainstreaming retardation via the likes of Nick Fuentes and Candace, don't vote again Owens, the more we're going to sow division. I saw a lot of people use the point last night. Hey, thanks to all of you that talked about what guest Tucker Carlson had on. I don't disagree with that. But again, Tucker put Nick Fuentes on. No one else did this to us. And I'm going to tell you right now, if Tucker does that interview with Nick Fuentes at this time next year, you're losing, 60 House seats. Can't gerrymander your way out of that. +7, +8 Democrats in the Senate. Every gubernatorial swing vote done, gone all over the country happens. And when I talk about Candace Owens being a satanic force, the paralyzing, don't take action, don't do anything, ask endless questions, don't find actual answers, that is satanic. And so the more we flirt with this retardation, the more we're going to turn off normie voters who friggin' hate this crap, the more we're going to sow division within our own coalition at the exact same time, the more we're going to be distracted and off mission. And we're not here. See, folks, Trump could cater some of these forces to our advantage and use them to his advantage because the power of his personality, at any point, he can just say, Candace Owens, you ignorant slut, you're out. No one else has that power. No one else can do that. And we're never going to have him atop a ballot to carry our sorry carcasses over the finish line ever again. He's never going to be on a ballot again. So we can't just sit here and say, Trump will fix it. Hell, he can't even get Republicans to get rid of the filibuster to save their own majority next year. So this is the choice we have post-Trump. Everybody wants to talk about post-Trump. Let me tell you what post-Trump is about. I'll tell you right now, and it'll be very simple to remember. This is the choice. We will either be the party of Charlie Kirk revival or reactionary retardation. Those are your choices. That's the choice. It's not conservatism, libertarianism, or any brand, Christian or lack thereof. It's really not any of those things. It's way more basic and fundamental than that. We are going to offer people Charlie Kirk type revival or reactionary retardation. That's the choice. Now, what happened to the right in Western Europe is it chose reactionary retardation. And look where they're at now. And that's the choice that we have. Charlie Kirk revival or reactionary retardation. That's the choice. It's not any more complicated than that. It's really just that simple. I'm looking at the clock. I want to get you guys' reaction. So I think we're going to carry this over a little bit into the next segment, if you guys are okay with that.
Yep.
Again, you're going to hear me say this a lot in the next year or two. Leading into those midterms next year, and then the aftermath after whatever that outcome is this time next year. This is our choice. Charlie Kirk revival or reactionary retardation. Those are your options. Choose ye this day. Choose wisely. There will be no in between. That is the meta path that is before us now. Charlie Kirk revival or reactionary retardation. That's the choice. When we come back, I'm going to choose to let Todd and Aaron give their thoughts in a moment. All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show, we're brought to you by our friends over at Moxie Pest Services. You know, as the weather turns colder, not only does your family notice the leaves, the crisp mornings, unfortunately, so do the pests. This is the time of year when mice, spiders, and all kinds of frolicky things are looking to make their way inside. And believe me, once they're in, it's a nightmare to deal with on your own. And that's why you want our friends over at Moxie Pest Services. They do more than you can just do by DIYing it. And, get that hardware store spray. There's a lot more to it than that. And that's why they're celebrating their silver anniversary. They've been around for 25 years because they've got such a great track record of success, but also customer service. They check in with their technicians every single day to make sure that they're now not the pests while getting rid of the pest in your home or place of business as well. You can help them celebrate their silver anniversary by getting your first pest control service for just $25 at moxieservices.com/Steve. Again, that's moxieservices.com/Steve. Help them celebrate their first or their silver anniversary with your first pest control service for just $25. They're practically giving it away because they're thinking that you're going to be so impressed you're coming back. Moxie Services, MOXIE. moxieservices.com/Steve, and use the promo code Steve to get $25. That's it. That's all it costs for your first pest control service. All right, Todd and Aaron, your thoughts on what I just laid out about last night's election results? The floor is yours.
I want to just reset it by going back to how you started, how there's, these are blue states, but there's things we need to pay attention to beyond just caricaturing, hey, laugh track, stupid blue people. And interestingly enough, you know who seems to get this? Based on Aaron's montage, and you guys made great points about the economic messaging, but more broadly, Donald Trump seems to be getting that. Because Donald Trump would be the first guy you'd expect to say something about, the morons. But look at, that was some of the most sober-minded messaging when he was talking about getting rid of the filibuster. I mean, that was like Donald Trump reciting Deuteronomy right there. He's like, we have no time. We cannot marry their women. We must get out of the filibuster. We must obey. We must go into the land. We must take it unapologetically. He's right. That was some of the most sober-minded, urgent messaging, not meandering off, not making jokes that you'll see from Donald Trump, because I think he really knows what time it is. That's as close as he's not a man who does desperation, but he sees what's happening in New York in the wake of his election. He's saying, guys, right now, this is a football conversation. So I think you're exactly right. When you've put out not only this particular message today, but some of the shows you've done this week, Steve, it's resonating with people on social media. I hope the increase is profound on that level, because what you said about evangelizing, see, that's the ball game.
You're not just a candidate anymore. You're an evangelist. You have to understand this.
I'm going to but that, as an Americans, that's what this country always founded to be. It was a gift given to us that we as individual men could stand in that gap and fight for that. But now we consider it a burden. Now we're too distracted. Now we're too comfortable. It was always thus. It was always thus. We're the ones who forfeit it. The fact that they are engaging in it, Mamdani and the like, the transgender and the like, I'm sorry, they actually understand the game better than we do. We whine and complain once we're taking the L's, but we're not willing to put in the work. Either we get that or we get nothing. We've got too many damn excuses, too many straw men, too many weakness passing off as gospel. Enough. Donald Trump actually put out the bat signal right there on that. The economic message aside, which Steve is exactly right about, we ignore this at our own peril.
So you want to get really uncomfortable?
Why not?
You want to get really uncomfortable here? Let's just be adults.
Is that allowed?
You know who is a great example of what you're talking about in recent days? Who do you think I'm going to say? Who do you think I'm going to say? A man named Zohran.
Mm-hmm. I thought
Actually.
that's who you were going to say, in fact. Yeah.
Let's be adults here.
He's evangelizing.
He's evangelizing.
Yep.
He ran a great campaign.
Yes, he did. He inspired people.
He inspired people. Do you remember what we talked about that one overtime? Making halal food, what was it, $7 again?
Yep.
And we didn't really mock or laugh at. But the point that I brought up here, do you remember the point that I brought up? Looking aside from the fact that we're trying to make sure that halal food is affordable in New York City, the question that I asked here is this fundamentally more of an economic campaign more than it is just a hardcore lefty burn everything down? That was the question that I asked. And it seems like the question has been answered in the affirmative on some level, at least at the outset of his campaign. Just take that one example alone. You're capturing the minds, you're capturing the imagination of your would-be voters. Yeah, it sounds great. I love the idea of walking around my now home or transplanted city and only having to pay $7 for a meal from a food cart. I love that idea, actually. And then you replicate that. You get some really, really slick marketing. And his marketing was very, very slick. You look at his logo alone, it was very distinctive. You're not used to seeing, orange and blue in a political campaign. I think you have to understand this, not only in the here and now, but in the long run. It's never been fiscally conservative. How many times have we railed against this? I'm fiscally conservative, but socially liberal. No. The whole ball game has always been economia, the family.
I'm glad you're saying this.
That is the most animating possibility that any politician, left or right, can actually tap into. You can't just point to the stock market. You can't just point at various graphs from BLS, from Bureau of Labor Statistics, and say, hey, look, economia is doing well. People need to feel it. They have to feel it. And Zohran Mamdani, as evil as he is, and as goofy as he is, eating rice with, or whatever it was, with his fingers, enough with that. We're done with that. He tapped into something. Let's be adults here and admit that. So you can try to tap into the same animating force that he did, or you can make fun of him for eating rice with his fingers. Your choice is yours. Also, just a quick aside, I'm pretty much won over to Trump's argument on nuking the filibuster because of what he laid out this morning. There's an actual plan there. Mm-hmm. And I understand that now that I'm thinking about this, and like, actually, this is a good idea. Do we believe our own talking points? Do we believe our own existential talking points here? Because if we did, we'd nuke the filibuster. If we didn't, then we just kick the can down the road, which is exactly the middle name of most Republican senators, which is why they probably won't nuke it.
I am so glad you said what you said, because you picked up on something. I was wondering how many people were going to catch my drift in what I just laid out, Aaron, because the truth of the matter is the terminology is a little bit different. But what I just laid out we have to do to win is not any different than what I have been saying for the last 20 years. I've said this over and over and over again. If you want to know why Reagan won and Trump won and McCain and Romney did not, it's everything that I just mentioned. And Aaron, you picked up on that. This is really not any different than what I've been saying. And you grew up listening to this show.
Oh, yeah.
It's the same stuff. The terminology's different. Hopefully my delivery's better. Hopefully I'm better at this than I was when you were a wee lass. Okay. But the terminology's different. The names are different. And maybe my delivery's improved over the years, but it's fundamentally not any different. It's fundamentally not any different. On the filibuster, I think I'm now where you are too. I was leaning Todd's way, but I thought you made some compelling arguments about, okay, what is the plan here? Hell, you know what? Just nuke it, and then after we accomplish what we want, just put it back in. Just put it back. Nuke it again if you have to. Put it back. You see what I'm trying to say?
It's a zero-sum game.
It's a zero-sum game. You know, we didn't just bomb Japan once. We bombed them for years. For years. We didn't say, all right, we did it once. All right, Ships back to the aircraft carrier, back to friendly waters. Just nuke it, bring it back, nuke it, bring it back, nuke it. Whatever you got to do, just do it. Everything short of doing what God says you cannot do everything else to win. Everything else to win other than that. Now, to quote Aaron again, do you want to get really uncomfortable? To quote Beavis and Butthead, we have chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry. You want to know the real reason the Republicans don't want to nuke the filibuster? Because there's at least 30 of them that don't want to vote for the things that Trump just said. Or at least one of the things that Trump just said. At least 30 of them, maybe more. And everybody's got a built-in fig leaf excuse right now. I mean, we are, this even ties back to the conversation about Tucker, Fuentes, young men. This idea that we were just going to skate forever on the fact we allowed the Marxists to completely take over every meaningful social institution in the country. And then and then unfortunately at the exact same time, the church decided it wanted to build a brand rather than a kingdom. The idea that we were just going to skate by here and there wasn't going to be real serious existential consequences for this was just never true. But I think because of our standard of living, the amount of comfort we all still enjoy, I think we believed that maybe that was going to be the case. There was a group of people once. They also did not want to live the way that the God they thought their rights and privileges came from as well wanted them to. In fact, they started their own traditions, their own ways of doing things. And many years went by, and they were pretty convinced that they were just going to keep getting away with it. That, maybe God doesn't judge such things anymore. One day, a ruthless group of people called the Assyrians showed up. Slaughtered every one of them they could. And then the few that they didn't slaughter, that were men, they put bits in their noses and put them on a Bataan death march back to a place we now call Iraq. The women they left there so they could rape them and intermarry with them and replace and co-opt their civilization. So they could replace their civilization, could replace them. And you would think, too, if you lived on the doorstep of such a country and your ancestors in the not too distant past lived through such a thing and passed that cautionary tale and warning down to you, you would think that you would also therefore say, wow, we can't make that same mistake, right?
One would think. You
would think. Unfortunately, that's not the way it worked out. Because barely 100 years later, what was left of the Israelite people decided, the final two tribes that were not wiped out of existence, decided that it would be peachy keen to go down into a valley named Topeth, which is a Hebrew word for hell, and throw their live babies into the fire for a demon. And the next thing they knew, an even more savage conqueror showed up. The conqueror who was ruthless and savage enough to defeat those savage and ruthless Assyrians. His kingdom was called Babylon. His name was Nebuchadnezzar. And he laid such savage siege to their city of Jerusalem that they had to drink their own urine for water and eat their own filth for food. And every vestige of their way of life was wiped off the map for 70 years, or about a lifetime. Yeah, we just, as a species, we always think this stuff won't happen to us. I just did that live read for Preborn to open the show. Do you know how much Mamdani is going to promote abortion? Well, Stevie's a Muslim, and that's exactly why he's going to do it. Because you know what? It's going to be that wealthy white girl in the video that Aaron, you had in your montage yesterday, who doesn't think socialism will work in New York, but she can't wait to vote for Mamdani. See, she's going to one that's going to hit the bars tonight and go home and allow some dude who doesn't care about her to blast off in his womb and impregnate her. She's going to be the one at Planned Parenthood in the morning. It won't be the Muslim woman. She actually believes in her religion. She won't be there. They won't be the ones killing their kids. We will be. And then they'll just take over.
I can't stress enough. I want to quote what you just said. She actually believes in her religion. Ball game.
Yes. Whoever believes most in the rightness of their cause has won every conflict in human history. That's why we're sinful creatures. There can be no perpetual empires. There's just one perpetual kingdom. And so ultimately, you may have structural advantages, superior technology, weaponry, numbers of soldiers for a while, but eventually our sins find us out. And sooner or later, those who believe in the most rightness of their cause win every time. Mamdani's going to be Planned Parenthood's best friend because he knows it won't be the hijabbed wearing women that will be there to kill their children. It'll be the useful idiot white girl who can afford a $4,000 a month flat there in Manhattan. She'll be the one doing it. And her beta male boyfriend, never husband, will drive her right there to the clinic to make sure it happens because he doesn't want the responsibility either. Reach a critical mass of that in a decade or two. And before you know it, they're serving halal in all the school cafeterias in all 5 boroughs. When we let go of the rope, it goes fast, very fast. We do not slouch to Gomorrah. Outside the gospel, we dead sprint. We dead sprint. And this is where we are now. So in a political sense, I think we may be overreacting to the results last night, given in the locations where these things occurred. But if you go beyond that and understand the moral and spiritual trend lines that are shaping these political outcomes, we're probably underreacting in that factor. Candidates have to be evangelists nowadays. Our coalition, just to recap here, candidates have to be evangelists nowadays. Our coalition, our base now is the MAGA Maha coalition. So we have to speak to the issues that drive those people to the polls to get them to show up. Nobody cares about the Republican Party brand. And the choice before us as we are on the doorstep of the post-Trump era. We're kind of in it already. Trump will never be at the top of a ballot to save us ever again. So the choice before us is Charlie Kirk revival or reactionary retardation. And there's no third way and there's no in between. It will be one path or the other. Choose wisely. Buy, sell, or hold is next. We're back with Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast, alongside Todd Erzen and Aaron McIntyre. I'm Steve Deace. You can let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox by emailing us, steve@stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Please subscribe to our new YouTube channel, at Deace Show on YouTube. And then finally, if you love the podcast, you can subscribe to that too. Just hit that button on your podcast platform, unless it's Apple iTunes. And in that case, hit follow. And in both cases, whether it's follow or subscribe, if you do that, you'll know for sure you don't miss a single episode in your podcast feed. And thank you if you've done that. And thanks to the tens of thousands of you as well that have left us 5-star reviews, whichever podcast platform you prefer. Those are all very much appreciated. And we'd appreciate it if you wouldn't mind, if you have yet to do so, adding yours too. We also appreciate our friends over at Beam Dream Powder. You know, this year we did crack the code. We did answer the age-old question. No, not how many licks does it take to get to the middle of a Tootsie Roll Tootsie Pop. Still haven't answered that one yet. But we did answer the age-old question, how is it possible for Steve Deace not to have to get up in the middle of the night to pee? Drink some Beam. Works like a charm. Puts me in such a deep sleep. Now, the bladder's full when I wake up, but you know what? I'm not groggy and I'm wide awake at the exact same time because I didn't have to get myself back to sleep. So Beam is basically a little hot cocoa without the sugars and carbs, so don't worry. It's a healthy nighttime blend of stuff that has proven, like magnesium, melatonin, and more. It has proven to help people to sleep better and deeper and sounder. And you put it all together and you'll sleep better, deeper, and sounder. And if you go to shopbeam.com/Steve and use the code Steve, You'll get up to 50% off during their cyber sale. You can grab their Dream Powder for just $32.50 right now. But here's the catch. Dream is only available at this price until it sells out. So seriously, think about it. How much would you pay for a truly great night of sleep? $32.50? How about, because you get more than one night, when you buy that. Okay. Get the cyber price right now. That's just $1.08 a night. Just $1.08 a night at shopbeam.com/Steve. BEAM as in laser beam, shopbeam.com/Steve, and try Beam today. Don't forget to use the offer code Steve for the big discount. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, we'll be joined by our good friend, the prophet of woe and lamentation himself, Daniel Horowitz. But until then, we're going to be joined by you with buy, sell, or hold. You guys know how this works. You have entered in your submissions. Todd and I, have not seen any of them. Aaron has. He has selected the ones that we're about to talk about. Todd, you and I will instantly react. Are we going to buy that? Are we going to sell it? Maybe even offer a reason or two. And then the option is available. It is buy, sell, and hold. You can hold, but that is considered such a gutless act that you should be punished severely. Don't you think there should be a severe punishment for this? Don't you think?
Yes.
Yes. You have to enter into the subconscious of Lindsey Graham to find out what he truly thinks about the young, vibrant Mr. Mamdani, full of virility, youthful passion and energy. You ready for that?
No.
That's a dark place, brother.
It is.
Let's go, Aaron.
All right, let us begin with some zany hijinks. Excuse me. I didn't actually download the video here. It's a clip from, I believe, Step Brothers with our faces superimposed. It's the scene where they just sit around farting. Uncontexted Deace 2 Electric Boogaloo says, somebody, Steve, farted at the start of the show on Tuesday. Buy, sell, or hold. Now, I went back and I looked, and I remember yesterday, at the very start of the show, you looked around like that. I'm like, is Steve okay? But I didn't know what it was. I didn't hear anything.
The bottom TV screen was out.
That was the reason.
Yeah, which means I couldn't see the guest.
But I
up.
did go back and listen, and there is a noise that sounds like a fart at the very beginning of yesterday's show.
I don't remember that at all. Do you?
No.
Okay.
I didn't remember hearing it, so I guess we're all a sell.
All right, I'm gonna buy though, because I think the my face on John C. Reilly, I think that actually, and sadly, goes well. So I'm gonna buy on that. Yes.
You're giving it artistic merit.
I am.
Points?
Yes. Yeah.
Next,
the spirit of it. Yes.
We go to Rowdy Introvert, who says that now that Zohran Mamdani is mayor-elect of New York, the patient socialists will enact their plan and be propped up by deep pockets to give the appearance of success. So all the spectators of this modern-day battle of First Manassas will be convinced to vote for the same.
Great analogy. Manassas is Bull Run, right? That was the other name for Bull Run, the first major battle of the Civil War, correct? Am I remembering that correct?
I think so.
Yeah.
Rings a bell.
That is a great analogy and analysis I'm going to buy.
Yeah, agreed.
Next, we go to the Sniper BBB, who says the Blue Jays players will be mandated to take remedial base running classes during the offseason. Were they bad at base running during the World Series?
They were, but they stranded, I want to say it was 11 runners in games 6 and 7 from the 8th inning on. And they just had to win one of those games, and they had the lead in both of them. So I'll buy. I mean, that's going to be one of the more heartbreaking World Series losses you could suffer. I mean, the other team hit like 208 for the series and still beat you. And you were up in the series 2 different times in a 7-game series. Yeah, that was pretty heartbreaking. I'll buy that. And I was correct. My memory was right. Manassas is Bull Run, the first major battle of the Civil War. So he's drawing an analogy that this is the first major full-onward battle of the Cold Civil War. So,
yeah, I'll buy. I hardly watched any of the series, but I know people are just talking about the slide into home alone, and why feet first and not head first.
Yeah.
A lot of it has to. These guys play so much baseball; they're so trained, and now see. Not only do they have those sliding gloves so they don't jam their wrists, and they put those things on, and he was wearing one. They're so programmed as honestly, I think it was no different. But yeah, it would have instinctively in that moment. See, you think that my point is you think more training on base running. I think that guy did exactly what he's been trained to do over and over and over again, and he didn't just like, that the normal rules don't apply. This is Game 7, I got to get there. And honestly, that instant replay, it was that close.
All right, next we go to this. Tyler Small says, legal immigration is a bigger issue culturally than illegal immigration. All Republicans need to beat the drum of ending all visas, advocate a moratorium, and remigration.
I would not have said this 5 years ago. I think it's clearly true now. So I will... Because here's the thing, too. If the previous administration's just letting millions of people in, then that's de facto legal immigration. You see what I'm saying? I mean, de facto, that's what it is. So I will buy for sure now. Again, I probably wouldn't have bought on this 5 years ago, but I definitely would now. Yeah.
And I'll also buy, and it speaks to what Steve said earlier about, the dirty little secret about what Republicans do and don't want to vote for. It has everything to do with that. And not just Republicans in office. Your average person who tends to think he is or her of the right, this, for the better, in our estimation, overturns the apple cart and gets things on a very necessary course of sanity. But a lot of people love their comfort. And undeniably, at least in the near term, this undoes some things. And people love their autopilot. So on that front, I think I'm adding something perhaps that wasn't necessarily overtly in the equation. But you're right.
Next is Ethan, who has this. Buy, sell, or hold. This text he sent to his dad after last night. Quote, now we just pray that God uses Mamdani in whatever way he will. That should be the prayer of Christians. Buy, sell, or hold.
I'm guessing he means as kind of a cautionary tale.
Yes.
That is the best case scenario of what happens from here. So then, as Christians, we should be advocating for best case scenarios in prayer, for sure. So, since I think, as far as my mind can conceive, that is the best case scenario, is that he becomes a cautionary tale. I'll buy that then.
And Mamdani is what, as Isaiah 1. Where would you yet be struck?
Next, we go to American Rohirrim, who says, getting bingo before the second hour of the show on any given day with the Todd Erzen bingo. Nice. I think it's just about 4 different phrases. Too comfortable, be a citizen. What are you prepared to do, sports bro? Buy, sell, or hold. You could get that on any given day before the second hour.
Oh, absolute buy. Well, hold on. Depends on how much I tend to talk during the first hour. So maybe I'll sell. If you said you're going to get that every day on the show, then I would buy. We can't always get to that every day before the first hour, though. Okay. So between Aaron's montage and what I may or may not have to say or an interview, we may not get to it in the first hour. So because of that specificity, I will sell, even though the spirit of it is right on. But 1 hour, we can't always get to. I can't check every one of those boxes in 1 hour.
I'll buy, and thank you for noticing.
Next, Colton O'Halloran says, it's almost like Jesus is our only hope since voting apparently isn't working.
Well, I'm going to sell. I think there's a...
Don't pit these two things against each other.
I was just going to say, I think there's a false equivalency there. Number one, Jesus has always been our only hope. All we are trying to do, as imperfectly as we can, is occupy until he comes, which is exactly what he told us to do. That's all we're trying to do. All right? So that's always been the case, number one. Number two, guys, we did just win the last election. I mean, Kamala Harris wins, but you win governor of Virginia. Making that trade? Trading President Kamala for the governorship in Virginia. Are you making that trade?
I don't. There's no trade I want to engage in that gets me Kamala.
Exactly. So we just won the last election. Okay. We just won the last one. So I think that goes too far. I think it creates a false equivalency. So I'm going to sell.
Yeah, I agree. It's voting works. You have to want to be a citizen. Bing! See?
There it is. But here's the thing too, though. Okay, we have these things called primaries. And this is where I'm going to sound like my buddy Jesse Kelly. All right. Who he pretty much puts the blame for everything wrong with America at the foot of the Republican primary voter for not showing up for decades, and then when they did, just voting for the worst pukes over and over and over again. And there is a lot of truth to that. And Jesse can embellish a point, with the best of them, illustrate absurdity to be absurd, by being absurd. But there is certainly at least a kernel of fundamental truth there in his lament, for sure. Mm-hmm. So we're not just talking about November, but what's going on in these various primaries around the country at the exact same time. Often the turnout in these Republican primaries, even for high profile positions like governor and senator, 25% of the people vote. I'm sorry, not the people, Republicans voting, 30%, so what's the line that Chesterton once famously used about Christianity that many people have claimed that Christianity has been tried and failed, but history has shown Christianity has been rarely tried, or something like that. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. We're not at the stage that we cannot vote our way out of this. The UK is at the stage they cannot vote their way out of this. They don't have the standing agency. There's no primary. There's no... don't give me Nigel Farage. They have like 5 out of 650 members of parliament are in his party. 5. So they're at that stage. They can't vote their way out of it. We're not, though. We really haven't kind of tried it, to be honest. We just skip the candidate selection process and go right to November and complaining about the kind of candidates that we actually do have,
The Christian ideal has not been tried and found wanting. It has been found difficult and left untried.
That's right. Thank you very much. That's the classic line from Chesterton. And of course, I dared to try to carry his jockstrap and tripped all over my own tongue.
Next is this from Congrats. Top 5 boys' toys from the 80s in no particular order. G.I. Joe, Transformers, Star Wars, Legos, Matchbox cars, and an honorable mention to Micro Machines and He-Man.
That's a great list. I was never a Matchbox car guy, but from that era, those absolutely belong high up on that list for sure. That's a pretty good list from my childhood, you bet. That was essentially that and, the kid who dips the chocolate bar into the peanut butter jar. That was essentially every commercial break during Saturday morning cartoons when we were growing up. If you were a boy, those 5 things, right? Pretty much.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Next is Brett Haugen, who says a rebuilt Gaza will be the Babylon referred to in Revelation 18.
Yes.
Wow, even Todd thought that was funny.
Nice.
I thought he would say, I have no idea what this is talking about.
Oh, my goodness.
Could. Sure. That's a potential outcome. I think, folks, there's a lot of potential outcomes on the table right now. A lot. Going both ways and on a lot of fronts. So anything that's just not, singularly retarded, you could probably make a case to me that it's a credible option. This would be one. So I'll buy. Yeah.
Yep.
Dalton Bell says the coven of the View will all be wearing hijabs to celebrate Mamdani winning his election.
No, they don't. No, no.
You got to keep the double-minded man.
Yes. Number one, they don't have to, and they're part of the special group. They properly virtue signaled, and they are the useful idiots who think they're going to be absolved from all that is coming down the pike and coming their way. So no, they won't be doing that.
We got a group of people that are closer on our side to putting Allie Beth Stuckey in hijab, then that's going to happen. So yeah.
Again, it seems a little counterintuitive to me to complain about the state of the women and then go after one of the few women trying to do something about the state of the.
They don't like your tone, Steve.
I guess it doesn't. And nothing says patriarchy like, I don't like your tone.
I know. We're doing great, guys. We're doing great.
Holy cow. All right, straighten your wrist. My goodness.
Did you see what
we bring back the patriarchy. Well, I don't like your tone, Missy. Oh my gosh.
Did you,
wow. Hey, kid,
did you
carry
see
my bags at gym again. Carry my bags to class again this week if you don't mind, kid. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Doug Wilson couched this week. Mom, Allie Betts bossing me.
Nice.
Let's go to Adam, the ex-Terminator. Ending the filibuster is a bad idea. I get that we might be a Republican name only right now. The weight of the pendulum would be too great.
I don't fault people for having this take, all right? So I'm going to sell only because I disagree with it, but not because I don't think it has merit. I think if you do the math, the reality is we're not going to pass anything meaningful. Anything meaningful is not going to pass. We already did the whole big, beautiful bill thing. Got a lot of good pieces of policy passed, but it didn't provide any real economic jolt if we're being honest about it. And so we're not going to pass anything meaningful. We're going to be left to forces now beyond our control to have a stronger economy to run on at this time next year. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that this is not fraught with risk and peril, okay? But we're in a theater of war, and to go back to the use of the analogy of Manassas, we are in an open, cold civil war. And I think we have to contemplate now that survival is the first objective of victory, is the survival of our way of life. And the reality is, if we lose these, I don't believe that we'll pass a single meaningful piece of legislation if we don't remove the filibuster. It will greatly diminish our odds, therefore, of winning the midterms. If we lose the midterms, much of the Trump presidency is dead on arrival the first Wednesday in November. And the odds we will turn around and win in 2028 become way lower. And it's way more likely we're going to have another multi-candidate, very divisive primary cycle because Trump's standing and legacy will be seen as diminished. I just, again, I'm not saying there's not risk here, all right? Whenever you're in any form of existential zero-sum conflict, every action you take is fraught with blowback and collateral damage, and you have to measure that. You do, which is why I respect this take, okay? But when I run this math in my head, I'm not saying I like the math. I'm not saying it's the most favorable math I've ever done in my career, but when I run the math, I think it's way more likely we lose everything if we don't do it than if we do. There are odds we lose everything if we do it. I'm not saying those, and they're not zero. Those odds are certainly not zero. But I think the odds that we're toast in the next 2 election cycles if we don't do it are way higher than the odds that they'll finish us off because we did it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, with respect. And I'm going to just win bingo on my own.
In fact, let me say it one more way, if you don't mind. Just pardon me. I just thought of this. So, excuse me. To me, if we don't do it, there's one way they could end us. I'm sorry. If we do it, there's only one way they could end us. We didn't manage it right, and then they turn around and use that power and finish us off. If we don't do it, there's 2 ways they could end us. 1, we didn't use the power when we had it. 2, they just turn around and then use the power when they have it and then end us anyway. You see what I'm saying? All right. So again, extinction's on the table with either option here. For our way of life, extinction is on the table here. But the odds to me double not doing it compared to if we do it. Thank you, Todd. Sorry about that.
I have no idea where you fall on the sports bro scale, but one of the things I hate about sports bro is there are lessons in sports that you're supposed to use in real life. With respect, again, your view of things here is the equivalent, if it's defensive, just playing prevent defense all the time and not taking any risk, or on offense, a lot of teams start off with scripted plays, but we're at the end of the game. We're not at the beginning. We are at a time where we have to do, yes, that's a key point. We're not at the beginning of the game. We're at the end of it. It's 3rd down and long.
We're at the beginning of the end of it, I guess. It's probably a better way of putting it, but go ahead.
Is it risky to drop back to pass when you know the defense is going to pin their ears back and bring everything at you? Yeah, but that's the only path to victory. Eli Manning had to drop back and actually pull himself out of a near sack and then throw to a tight end that you've never heard of with a Hall of Famer named Rodney Harrison guarding it. And one of the greatest catches of all time in a game of consequence happened because that's what you have to do in games of consequence. This is You're doing too much safety dance right here. I don't know if you understand the level of existential peril we're in just because Donald Trump happens to be in the White House. It's been a nice honeymoon. We were there. We enjoyed it. We had fun. But folks, to quote Steve Deace again from just like a half hour ago, they believe in our religion way more than we believe in ours right now.
I mean, this is where we are right now. I wasn't going to do this, but I'm at the point now. Here's where I'm at. And you guys may have to put a check on me. I haven't even told you this. All right. So, show ombudsman, I'm putting you on blast that you may have to rein me in.
Live on air. Wow.
Okay.
Let's do that.
I'm at the point that unless you have an established body of work that has done a great amount of positive contributions to my values and our movement and our side, like say Tucker, I have zero tolerance anymore for any beginning signs of grifting retardation, like any. Let me give you an example. Brett Cooper yesterday. Did you see this clip?
Of course, yeah.
I was going to comment on it. I decided not to, but I'm going to bring it up now. So Brett Cooper got let go at Daily Wire last year, and I don't know the woman, never heard her show, don't know anything about her at all, all right? What I do know, she got let go. In fact, that's the first time that I found out she actually wasn't Ben Shapiro's sister. That's how much I'm out of tune with all the drama, soap opera of our... I'm trying to save a country. I don't care. I'm not here to do Rudy Martzke's media column. All right. I'm trying to do, the founding documents. So I don't give a rip about this crap. All right. Showed up on Sean Ryan's show, which is one of the biggest shows in America right now. But I've not heard hide nor hair of her since she went out on her own after she was on Sean Ryan's show. All of a sudden yesterday afternoon, the algorithm is feeding me. There's 75 posts in my feed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you see this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Brett Cooper going after Ted Cruz for his hypocrisy in calling Nick Fuentes a Nazi, who calls himself a Nazi. Nick Fuentes has been on the record how many times calling himself a Nazi. And you can see the mannerisms and stuff. It's almost like she's just impersonating Candace at this point. And it's frankly it's literally like someone got to her and said, listen, man, engagements and stuff are down. Go out there. You ever seen that meme where the guy looks in the mirror and says, go out there and make it about you? You ever seen that?
Yeah, I love it.
The guy in the mirror said, go out there and make it about Nick Fuentes. Your engagements are down. And so I had not heard a word from Brett Cooper in my feed for months, since whenever it was she was on Sean Ryan's show telling her life story. Some pretty powerful clips, actually, to be honest with you. I saw them. Ever since then, I forgot she lived. All of a sudden, about 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon, there's 75 posts in my feed. The algorithm just pumping me, Brett Cooper. Why? Because she's de facto defending Nick Fuentes. She's not that dumb. She's just pretending to be. Congratulations, it worked. You got the engagement you wanted and everything else. I'm going to tell you right now, I've got married kids, hopefully more married kids, grandkids, hopefully more grandkids. Unless you've got a decades-long body of work that has had incredible, immeasurable positive impact on our way of life and what we're trying to accomplish here, I have none. Zero, zilch, nada, none. I have no more tolerance for this retardation. None. I'm going to call it all out moving forward. We can't do this. We're going to die on the vine. We will have Charlie Kirk revival, or we're going to have reactionary retardation. That's the choice. And unless you've got a body of work that demonstrates you're just intellectually curious, then I'm just going to assume at this point, reactionary retardation grifter, and I am not going to let any more of that, as much as I can. We cannot inject any more of that into ourselves. We're going to die. We're going to kill ourselves if we do. Fuentes calls himself a Nazi, has done so repeatedly. No one got up yesterday and wanted to know Brett Cooper's thoughts on Ted Cruz. You know who wanted those thoughts? Whoever the hell's selling engagements for wanted those thoughts. Get in there and make it about Nick Fuentes. Enough. We cannot be this stupid. There's a country on the line. Find your engagement somewhere else.
I approve that message.
And that's from the show Ombudsman.
In completely unrelated news, this from the Forester: the only reason Republican senators want to avoid ending the filibuster is because it's harder for them to hide their motivation of not passing anything conservative.
That's what I said this earlier.
Yes.
The dirty little secret, there's at least 20 to 30 Republican senators that don't want to pass the things Trump said. Maybe all of them, or at least one of them. That's the dirty little secret. This gives everybody a fig leaf to cover their shameful nakedness. Yeah.
Yes.
Bye. Yeah.
Jonathan is next, who says Todd has forgotten the purpose of buy, sell, or hold. Existential or deep questions are for Ask Me Anything or Feedback Friday. This segment is meant to needle the host's pet peeves, make them laugh, or present opinions or fun topics to get through the week.
There's some truth to this. Well,
Todd
not the Todd
earlier.
part, but I don't mean the Todd part, but what the point of this segment is yes. So I'll buy because I agree that there's a broader point to this segment that you allude to. But I don't get the sense you have forgotten it. I'm not taking Todd aside and say, hey, lighten up, Francis. I haven't done any of that.
I'll buy that.
If anybody needs to lighten up right now today, it's probably me, for being honest. All right. Goodness. Get in there and make it about you and Nick Fuentes.
Let's go to this. Chit Bat Crazy says, to reach the younger age demographic, buy, sell, or hold should be rebranded as buy, sell, or 6-7. I spent about 2 minutes earlier this year figuring out what 6 or 7 means, and I think it doesn't mean anything, and that's the point.
Yeah, I've seen that going around, and I didn't have
I've
the
never even heard the expression.
Look it up.
I had no idea. I don't know what it means. Never heard of it.
I went back and used my abacus. I just don't.
I'll just do the opposite of you, so we'll make sure we're right. One of us is right on what this means. So are you buying or selling?
Oh, okay. Buy.
All right, then I sell.
Yeah,
I'm holding.
Yes. Nice.
I'm sorry. I'm 6-7ing, whatever.
Oh, yes, I'm 6-7ing.
Nice. All right.
One more quickly. He hasn't been perfect, but Mike Johnson is probably the best speaker we could have gotten, and he seems to be getting better.
Sell. There's no. Come on. Let's not get nuts. Okay. Let's not. No.
You're going to hate me. But I'm not saying it's a good thing. But I think that this is likely true. Given everything else we've already said and answered,
Paul Ryan to Mike Johnson, it is night and day.
This is likely true.
Night and dawn.
Night or midnight.
Yeah.
Losing my religion.
Indeed. Stay tuned. It's not easy to convince people that pain relief products can work, especially use at home ones. And let's face it, a lot of them are gimmicks. That's why we wanted to try it ourselves before we recommended them to you. I tried the Chirp Contour, and I loved the results on my neck. In fact, it's on my list, my to-do list for later today, to use it again, in fact. And on my list for tomorrow, my to-do list for tomorrow, is to put the Halo to good work that Aaron tried out about a week or so ago out at his pad. And he came back, and you, Aaron, if I recall, you had rave reviews when you tried that as well.
Yep.
So, hey, we've tried these products ourselves before we recommended them to you. They're doctor-trusted, FDA-cleared devices that work just like the clinic treatments, but without the expensive appointments. And the Chirp mission is simple. Bring relief to as many people as possible so you can feel better, restore your energy, and make self-care simpler. With a whole new category of products called Relief, they're constantly innovating to provide professional-grade therapies that people can use at home. And the Chirp, Contour, and Halo are just two of what they offer. There's many more. And you can get 10% off site-wide, in fact, when you use the promo code Steve at gochirp.com/Steve, CHIRP. gochirp.com/Steve. Use the promo code Steve for 10% off at gochirp.com/Steve. I'm not sure after the last 15 minutes we really need woe and lamentation. Okay?
Yeah, we do. Just
because I'll be damned. I listen. I am not tolerating a Candace Owens farm team. I'm just not. I'm none. Zero. Zilch nada. You want to get uncomfortable? I'll make everybody uncomfortable. Absolutely not. Do not treat me like I'm this dumb. Do not treat us all like we're this stupid on a rando Tuesday 3 weeks after the fact. Brett Cooper's got thoughts on Ted Cruz and Nick Fuentes. No, you don't. You got thoughts on your friggin' engagement numbers. That's what you got thoughts on. Stop it. Stop it. So I don't know that we need any more woe and lamentation. Nevertheless, we'll bring Daniel Horowitz on anyway. Good to see you, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing all right, Steve. But just remember, whatever it is, the Jews did it.
Oh, every time. How does it feel to be responsible for everything?
But see, Steve, here's what I don't get. How come the Jews control the world except for when it matters, then they don't? Like, they can't even control New York. This is the thing. Like, they pulled out all the stops. You had some of these. I sent you some of these precincts that were Saddam Hussein margins for the Republican in New Jersey, and then in New York City, I guess it was Cuomo versus the Mamdani guy, and it didn't work. So I guess they don't control much.
Looking at last night's results, you and I communicated in our private text thread about some of the stuff that you've said, and then I said on the show earlier today. Something came to me though, but that I could not put in our private text thread that I want to get your take on right now. And I got this from Brett Buchanan over at Signal Polling, who's one of President Trump's 2024 pollsters for the campaign. And he sent this over to me in Loudoun County, Virginia, yesterday. Third largest county in the state. About 500,000 people live there. Winsome Sears, according to their data, she got 63% of the Trump 2024 vote in that county. And Abigail Spanberger got 82% of the Kamala Harris 2024 vote in that county. So I caution the audience to remember, we're fighting them in their territories. These are blue states. All right. So we do need to have that as a backdrop. But there are still trend lines that we can glean for why we had some of the margins and results we do. That do project out. That would be one of them, I would think. That we need to recognize our coalition now, our base coalition are the MAGA, Maha people. We have to speak to the issues that those kinds of people care about to get them to turn out. I think we also need, and I know you've been harping on this for months, I know you have, but we need a better economic message other than we'll deficit spend better and regulate Obamacare better. That's not going to cut it. That's not going to work. And then thirdly, I think, we're trying to figure out what the post-Trump world is going to look like. All right. See, when you get into these midterm elections, we kind of have all the baggage of Trump, but without him on the ballot, we don't get any of the benefit, right? Yes. So it's the worst of both worlds. And they went through this with Obama. I mean, we kicked their butt in all the midterm elections when Obama was president, but we could never beat him, right? So it's a little bit of an inverse of what the Obama years were like with the two parties, okay? But post-Trump, he's going to be still the symbol and face of what this party will likely be branded at by our opponents when he's gone. And we're going to have to figure out, I made this point earlier, that Trump could play to the retarded elements like Candace Owens, because when they got out of line, he was the king. He just say, hey, Candace, shut up. Jane, you ignorant slut, you're out of here. He could just do that to her. Nobody else has that kind of power, right? And so we're going to have to figure out how we're going to have, to me, the ultimate choice post-Trump is Charlie Kirk revival or reactionary retardation. And I think those, to me, that's the choice moving forward in terms of what kind of a political party are we going to be? Are we going to be one that is going to be missional, that is going to be inspirational, that is going to have effective policies and answers to people's challenges? Or are we just going to be this party that dabbles in retarded reactionaryism and then when your engagement numbers are down on a random Tuesday, you've got thoughts on Nick Fuentes and Ted Cruz? What are we going to be? I think those are the options, but I want to get your take. Go ahead.
I agree with you, Steve. I would just say with the reactionary retardation, not as a third option, but it's really part and parcel of it, is that it's not that you're really getting reactionary retarded candidates to win in red states and do the Twitter online thing or run in competitive states or whatever. You get the same blah, nothingness, special interest candidates, albeit without the special interest money, and they're severely outspent and outgunned on the ground. But then this retarded subculture that just makes everyone more unelectable. So I'm saying it's not like we have a bunch of Tucker Carlson style candidates that are winning even in red states, much less in Virginia. It's the same old, albeit just with this kind of like repeal the 19th Amendment sort of vibe to Loudoun County of voters. Look, I think there's a couple of important things to say here. For a year, all of our colleagues have been saying the Democrats are dead. And the reason they said that is for two reasons. Number one, they projected on the Democrats their sophistry. So what's their sophistry? That we don't have a movement and we focus on one man, and for 10 years put all of our eggs in that one man, don't build up a roster of candidates, of issues, of legislative accomplishments, ground game, even money. And we're like, Democrats haven't had a transcendent, charismatic figure since Obama, and they don't really have one on the horizon. So like, well, they're kind of dead. So that's what that. Number two is, we looked around the TikToking punditry space and we're like, we're kicking their butts. I mean, we're just everywhere. You know, we got the like color war. We got the spirit. Well, here's the thing. While we're producing pundits, they're producing activists. So they don't have a transcendent figure. They don't have as many podcasts. But you know what they do have? They have a 50-state, 3,000-county strategy that not a single issue, primary, or general election gets past them. That's what they do have. And part of our problem is we choked on our own nonsense. I've been watching Virginia, not so much New Jersey, but Virginia all year. There's no ground game. There's no money. There's just nothing. There's nothing anywhere. And I want to caution not to put too much into Virginia, Earl Sears as a candidate, the uniqueness of the federal workers, because whatever you say is a variable that has to account not just for what happened last night, Republicans losing 3 seats in Mississippi in the state Senate, losing 2 statewide offices in Georgia, losing dozens upon dozens of local offices in Pennsylvania counties and New York and really everywhere. Everywhere there was to lose, they lost. But the entire lead up to this year, Democrats have overperformed in 45 of 46 legislative special elections. They've been averaging 15.5 percentage points better than Harris's baseline. Now, here's the important thing. That's double their overperformance during the 2017-2018 era. That's always going to be their home game. Their home game is going to be when we're in the White House because that's their time to win. The opposing party wins. But it's the margins. I mean, Steve, have you ever heard a situation where a UN ambassador candidate has to be yanked back to run for her seat in a Trump plus 15 district because they were scared of losing it? Mm-hmm. So you can't look at last night in a vacuum, and it's not even this year. You talked about Obama kicking, we kicked his butts in the midterms, but then he still won. The problem is Democrats are now double dipping. Since 2017, they have an uninterrupted stream of victories in down the ballot races where they either downright crush or they overperform. So 17, 18, okay, that made sense. Trump's in the White House, the pushback, the polarization, fine. You have 20. But when Biden was the most unpopular, discombobulated Democrat leader of all time, you want to talk about a charismatic leader, terrible economy, okay? Because we're talking about right now, we're owning the terrible economy, which is why Republicans are doing poorly uniformly, equally everywhere. But when they owned it, what happened in 2022, 2023, 2024, up until Trump in November? And even in November, Republicans came out with the smallest House majority. And then when you get to governors and legislatures in Arizona and senators, Arizona, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, it's a sea change from last decade. I know I threw out a lot there, but this is a long, broad trend. And the point is we have lacked a movement and a vision outside of whatever Trump offers and produces for 10 years. Now it's a double whammy. It's an extra 5-10 points because of the economy. And then finally, Steve, look, we could debate policy issues, but one thing you can't do is tell the public that there's no inflation, there's no quality of life, cost of living problem, the stock market is doing great, and expect to win on that. I don't care what quality candidate you have down ballot. But then, one other thing I would just say is we've cozied up to Qatar, big tech, and the crypto bros, like more than the Republicans have ever done. where's the payoff? Because what I've seen is Republicans were outspent. In some of the House of Delegates races in Virginia, it was like 20-1, including when the Republican was the incumbent. Spanberger outspent 2-1. New Jersey for sure. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court races, which the Democrats swept, were 4-1. Where is the money going?
Meaning, if we're going to cozy up to these elements that are very wealthy, why are we still getting dramatically outfunded and outspent in all these political races then, right?
Meaning Republicans could have countered in Loudoun and Prince William counties on the quality of life, the neighborhood destruction, and the electricity bills of the data centers. Okay, but they couldn't because Youngkin actually is more pro the data centers than the Democrats there. So they took that issue off the table because Republicans are in bed with them. But then we didn't even get the money from it. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. And I think these questions need to be asked outside of Trump, and mainly when Trump is a challenger to an incumbent. We have been losing everything. And I mean, these are the questions that need to be asked.
The money question is beyond me. I cannot answer that. But I mean, we get routinely outfunded. I saw Jack Posobiec pointing out this morning on X how much money Soros pumped into the New York City mayoral race, for example, right? So the money thing is beyond me. I can't answer that. I'm not getting paid by either Jews or Qataris. Okay, so I don't know the answer to that one. The other question, though, that I wonder about is, are we just here because the reality is this is what the Republican Party has always been. Our base knows this. The Republican Party brand is trash. Yep. The base has all its trust in Trump, and he's a party in a kind of unto himself, basically. And we're at the juncture now where we've issued every executive order. We've done everything there is to do now. Okay. And the only thing left to do now are the kinds of unconventional, confrontational things we've not wanted to do in the future or in the past, like try to fire the head of the Federal Reserve or try to disobey a federal court order. They kind of did that actually the other day on the food stamps. They did it kind of quietly a little bit, okay, but just to disavow a federal order, to get rid of the filibuster, okay? That because we don't have a governing coalition. There's too many people in elected office. Even for someone, even if you took the stuff that you think Trump is just, BSing us on and blustering us on that you point out and complain about. If you just took the stuff that you think Trump would actually be willing to do, we don't have a governing majority in Washington of Republicans that would even do that. That would even do the stuff that you think Trump is actually serious about doing. And so we're at this. We're it's Proverbs, brother. I mean, can two walk arm in arm unless they see eye to eye? The house divided against itself cannot stand. Right. We're at this juncture where Trump is not what his branding is, but he's still more than what the Republican Party is, and he can't even get them to deliver on things that would encourage their very survival as a majority. And so we have nowhere else to go. Our base won't show up to vote without him on the ballot because they know that's who the Republican Party is, because that's why they turned to him in the first place, because they already came to that conclusion a decade ago. You see where I'm going with this?
No, and I think this is the conundrum, but this is really why the red state endorsements is the checkmate for me. Because what are we left with? I think the good news last night, I mean, if you can glean it a little bit. So we had 2 ballot initiatives in Texas on parental rights and citizenship, proof of citizenship to vote. Republican, or those issues won 72% margins. I think Dave Wasserman put out something like, as bad as it was in Virginia, they lost 13 seats. It didn't traverse more than maybe R+7. I don't have the exact number, but the point is, I think in a regular midterm, if Trump got in there, fundraised, juiced up, we could do very well in red states pretty much. But with who? With what? This is what bothers me. If we're going to have this white trash demeanor now where the Jews are terrible and women shouldn't vote and this and Allie Beth is terrible, this whole cosplay online that you're never going to win over people that way, that you need to win over and needlessly turn people off. then could we at least then elect people like that in primaries in red states and have that as a refuge? But we're not doing that. We're giving Greg Abbott...
In other words, we're getting all the retardation and other reactionaryism. Because you and I are in favor, at least a little reactionaryism. But if we're not getting any of it. We're just getting all the retardation and none of the reactionaryism. Is that what you're saying?
No, I mean, that's well said. You get Brad Little's third term in Idaho, Greg Abbott's fourth term in Texas. Like, yeah, what do you want from me?
All right. On that note, I'm out of time, and I can't. That may be a meta statement. In fact, thank you, brother. Good to see you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thoughts on that, gentlemen, before we get out of here?
I don't know.
All retarded, none reactionary.
I don't know if he was picking up on what I was laying down or he's just happened to use the exact same language, but he's right. Cosplay. That's what this is. It's just dress up. Fake news, man.
What is the exchange rate currently for retardation to reactionaryism?
It ain't gold. I'll tell you that. It ain't gold. We talk about people being clinically and chronically online. As a party, we might be the people that are clinically and chronically online, frankly. Go hard, Romans 8:28.